Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first full lecture for Ethics Philosophy 212 Summer 2020 for Finlandia University. I am Dr. Patricia Gross, and I am the Assistant Professor of Philosophy at Finlandia University, and I am here to teach you all about ethics. So let's get started, shall we? A note on the slides that I'm pulling from right now, since the last time that you may have checked, I actually went through the Unit 1 slides, and I wrote little comments in the bottom of each slide. So that's the comments are kind of what I'm going to be saying during the lecture. I probably will riff on it a little bit more. But if you want to review after you watch this video and you want to review and remember what we talked about, you can come back and, you'll see on any page, I will tell you a little bit more about the slides. So those slides you can find if you look at our Canvas website. Let's see what it looks like for you, student view. So student view right now, you can see it's the first thing right here. And then you'll see what you have to do. You'll see there's no new reading right now for the Monday, Tuesday part of the class. But then you'll have to read Plato's Euthyphro. You'll have to watch this video and then complete more discussion boards. Right now, all the discussion boards are split up. I think it's a little bit easier for them to be split up for you, just so you know you'll have a clear count of what's due when, that kind of thing. So we'll get to what those discussion board assignments are very soon. You'll notice that there's no link right now to this video up here. That's because the video is currently being created. So if you leave student view, you'll see right here, the first thing after what is ethics that's going to be up here is the week 1 lecture. That's going to be this lecture as I talk. It's invisible right now because it doesn't go to anywhere. As soon as I finish this, I'll throw this on my YouTube page, Gross Philosophy, and then you'll be able to access this through the Canvas site. So this week we are beginning our exploration into ethical systems. I'll recap a bit I just did that. So I already recapped what the Canvas page is, and we don't need to talk about the syllabus right now because, there'll be a little bit of syllabus conversation, not too much. So the unit's title for this first unit, which is week 1 and week 2, is What is Ethics? What is the Good Life? So the week 1 assignments are to complete the discussion boards, which we'll talk about at the end, not at the end, but we'll talk about this before we move on to the Thursday, Friday discussion. And then here's your course text, which is Gordon Marino, Ethics Essential Writings. This course text is available at the library. There's a whole bunch of copies at the library you might be able to check out at the Mackey Library. And if you can't, it's available online and also at the bookstore. And the reading for this week does come from the course text, but I've also provided a PDF to help you out, okay? So you can check that out there. So let's get started. Okay, so the grade assessment, I keep saying let's get started, we already started. The grade assessment for this course is 40% of this grade assessment is for 2 papers. 30% are these reading quizzes that you'll be taking starting in the end of week 2. Usually there's going to be a reading quiz every week, right? You'll see in week 3 there's a reading quiz, in week 4 there's a reading quiz. But for the first week, I don't have you do a reading quiz in the first week, right? I'm going to give you a break, and in week 2 you'll have the reading quiz for everything. I just set that up today and double checked it, so hopefully that'll work out. Oh my gosh, the last course I taught, when everything went down and everything had to go online, I accidentally had the quiz on something the students didn't actually read, and that was a bit that was a bit of a mess. But I did double check this reading quiz, so it should work just fine. Of course, if there's ever a problem with the reading quiz, just let me know. The quizzes are short; they're only 10 questions long usually, and they're multiple choice, short answers, sometimes true, false, that sort of thing, based on the readings. And if you ever have a problem with one of the questions, like you don't think it's worded correctly, just let me know. I don't do trick questions, so if you think it's a trick, just let me know and I'll look at it. Sometimes people think it's a trick, but really they should have read more carefully. But sometimes it's an accident on my part and I messed up the wording as I was typing. I didn't catch it in time because I'm a human and I make mistakes sometimes. Okay, so 40% papers, 30% quizzes, and then finally discussion boards. We don't have attendance in this class, right? But you do have discussion boards, and there's going to be 2 distinct discussion boards activities each week. The original posts for There's going to be original posts that are due on Tuesday and original posts that are due on Thursday, and then you'll have a bunch of response posts that are due on Friday. And that's the assignments every week. I know some classes have different due dates, but our due dates are all on, like, the final response posts are always due on Friday, because y'all should take the weekend off. It's the summer. I mean, you don't have to if you don't want to, but hopefully you could. Okay, so what is ethics? I don't know why my computer doesn't know that ethics is spelled okay. It's so weird that it didn't think that I was spelling ethics correctly. But let's get on to it. What is ethics? Here's some cool pictures I stole from the internet. Don't demonetize me. Wait, I'm not monetized on YouTube, I think, so it should be fine. But what is ethics? Here's the definition that comes from the Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy, right? And that's a really great resource that I recommend. If you ever use the internet, any kind of like online resource in my class, go ahead and make a hyperlink, right? Like this, and that way I'll know. It's the, you get it like up here. If you go, that's how you copy that, Control C. Or you can just copy, if I was going to link the Canvas page, I could copy this link and put it in there too, and you can find it. So, but it's always good to say where you get stuff from. So the field of ethics, or moral philosophy, is the same thing, involves systematizing, defending, and recommending concepts of right and wrong behavior. It doesn't necessarily tell you what you have to believe, but the goal of this course is not to really promote one system of ethics over another system of ethics, but I really want you to see that there are systems of ethics. Like, even what you currently believe is probably founded in an ethical system that's been going on for thousands of years, and you just are not aware of it, right? Or maybe hundreds of years, not thousands of years, but we'll get to that. So to continue the definition, philosophers today usually divide ethical theories into three general subject areas: meta-ethics, normative ethics, and applied ethics. And guess what? We're going to be going over them right now, but also we're going to be going over these major concepts throughout the course. But I'm not probably going to use the terms meta-ethics and normative ethics too much because they're fancy for me. Applied ethics, we'll get to in a second, and that's pretty common. Okay, so what's meta-ethics? Meta-ethics, this is also from the website, IEP, and it investigates where our ethical principles come from and what they mean. Are they merely social inventions? Do they involve more than expressions of our individual emotions, etc.? Meta-ethical answers to these questions focus on the issues of universal truth, the will of God, the role of reason in ethical judgments, and the meaning of ethical terms themselves. An example of meta-ethics can be found in Kant's formulation of the categorical imperative, which we'll be going into in the coming weeks. There's a little bit of an account of it in your readings in week 2, though. Normative ethics takes on a more practical task. Again, this is from the IEP. It takes on a more practical task, which is to arrive at moral standards that regulate right and wrong conduct. This may involve articulating the good habits that we should acquire, the duties that we should follow, or the consequences of our behaviors on others. In some ways, Kant's theory could also be considered a form of normative ethics. That's why these kinds of distinctions are complex sometimes. But another good example of normative ethics is Aristotle's virtue ethics, which is something we're going to talk about in the coming weeks as well. Finally, applied ethics involves examining specific controversial issues such as animal rights, environmental concerns, capital punishment, nuclear war, business concerns, etc. These fields of applied ethics include business ethics, bioethics, and environmental ethics. Basically, you're applying the ethics to a particular field. Bioethics is the field of ethics that's applied to medicine, right? And issues surrounding that. So, for example, the spring of 2020, I taught a course called Biomedical Ethics that I'll be teaching again in spring 2021. Hopefully, you'll have the time in your schedule to take it. So, to continue. Oh, we're done. Okay, so the first discussion board activity for Monday and Tuesday, right, is here. What you'll have to do is here, right? And let's just go ahead and look here. It's on the slide. You can check it out. It's on here too. So just to go over it a little bit, you'll see on the discussion board post here that I actually include a rubric for the discussion board posts. It's connected to the learning objectives for the course. But for this one, You're going to have to introduce yourself to the class and write 250 words explaining how you would come to the following ethical conclusion. One cold Saturday night, you're sitting at home alone in your living room watching The Good Place. You hear a kitten crying outside. It's your neighbor's kitten, the one they never let inside at night, who you are worried will surely die in the snow. Conclusion. So you take the kitten in for the night, clean her, feed her, and warm her up. You decide to keep her and rename her Charlotte. So, how would you come to that conclusion? So I've given you the situation, I've given you the conclusion. I want you to explain why you think it's the right thing to do, okay? And if you don't think it's the right thing to do, I want you to write me an explanation as if you think it's the right thing to do. The original post is due by Tuesday, and then you have to respond to your classmates by Friday. Let's move on. So for your Thursday and Friday assignments, you'll have to read Plato's Euthyphro, which I have given the PDF that's on our course page. The PDF is here, and the PDF comes from a different text, I think. So yeah, you'll figure it out. So then you'll have to watch this Philosophy, the Good Place, the Good Life video from Wireless Philosophy. It's very good. And then finally write discussion board posts. So, okay, now that we were, let's continue. Here is the link to the YouTube video. The YouTube video that I want you to watch for this week too is here. So you can see, watch this thing, complete, read, watch, complete. And then you see, like, I'm kind of trying to be as clear as possible on the course page of what I want you to do. But before we get started discussing the reading for Euthyphro, I want to talk a little bit about moral relativism. Here's the definition from the Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy. It is the view that moral judgments are true or false only relative to some particular standpoint, and that no standpoint is uniquely privileged over all others. For a bonus for your final grade, please send me a short email, 100 words or so, letting me know whether you think morality is relative and why. That is there such a thing as right and wrong, or is it always relative to whatever standpoint you're coming from? So let's continue. This slide gives us a background on Plato, the author of the dialogue you've read for this week. Plato lived around 428 to 348 BCE in Athens, Greece. He was a student of Socrates, who died in 399. Plato wrote philosophical dialogues in which Socrates and his interlocutors attempted to search for the meaning of important concepts like knowledge, love, friendship, and justice. The Euthyphro is a dialogue devoted to the question of what piety is and takes place outside the court of the archon, that is, the elected magistrate king. There's two main characters. It's Socrates, the guy who died in 399, and Euthyphro, the guy who the dialogue is named after. So Socrates has dedicated his life to the pursuit of knowledge. He is a man on his way to hear the charges that he would be ultimately put to death for. And the two charges are impiety, not believing in the city's gods, but in new spiritual matters, and corrupting the city's youth. The impiety is the important thing here because Socrates is ultimately put to death for this crime. And so when he asks Euthyphro to tell him what piety is, in theory, it would actually help him with his court case. Euthyphro was a priest, a friend of Socrates, and a man who was charging his own father with murder. And right now, I don't think I want to go into what the story is, but here's the story of the murder that took place that Euthyphro has come to charge his father with. And Euthyphro, but what's important is Euthyphro's family is really upset with him right now because they think it's impious for him to go after his father in this way, right? They don't think that's appropriate for Euthyphro to do, which Euthyphro disagrees, right? He says that shows Socrates how little they know of the opinions of the gods and about piety and impiety. This is the question of the Euthyphro. It becomes the question of the dialogue. What is piety itself? Socrates says, tell me what piety is, and then I shall have a standard to which I may look, and by which I may measure the nature of actions, whether yours or anyone else's, and say that this action is pious and that impious. That is, this will tell him, if he knows what the definition of piety is, it'll tell him what right from wrong is. And that's pretty valuable, right? Well, Euthyphro gives us 3 definitions of piety that all fail for different reasons. The first one, prosecuting the wrongdoer as pious and not prosecuting as impious, is problematic because, on the one hand, it has the definition of what it's trying to define in it. So it's got wrongdoer in there, and it doesn't explain what wrongdoer is. But Socrates just simply says, look, dude, I didn't ask you for an example of piety. I wanted you to tell me what it is. So we get the definition. What is dear or pleasing to the gods is pious. But in ancient Greece, this is kind of a problematic definition because different gods like different things, right? Like there's a goddess of harmony and there's a goddess of disharmony, right? There is a god of war and a god of love. So we have a problem here, right? The gods love different things, and that's a bad definition. So we get this third definition, right? What all the gods love is pious and holy, and opposite is which they all hate is impious. Okay, we're coming somewhere. Well, there's a problem with this definition too. Socrates' response to this third definition is the pious or holy beloved by the gods because it is holy, or is it holy because it is beloved by the gods? What does that mean? So here's another way to think about it. Dr. Gross loves Loki because he is cute and orange. Loki is cute and orange because Dr. Gross loves him. What's wrong with this? Well, I think you know what's wrong with this, right? Loki's cuteness and orangeness has nothing to do with my feelings for him, right? Now, like, cute is subjective or whatever, but like we know that this cat's coloring has nothing. If I was blind, he would still be orange. I just wouldn't be able to see it, right? So when Socrates asks, he says, is the pious beloved by the gods? So the gods love pious and pious things because it is pious, that is for itself, because it is good, or is it only good or holy or pious or whatever because the gods say so? That's the Euthyphro dilemma, and this dilemma gets picked up throughout time. It comes up in Christian ethics and more modern ethics as well. Where does our ethics come from? Is everything just relative? So why have I made you read this text? Why does Plato's critique of moral relativism matter? Because this is a critique of relativism, right? It's what we started with. Well, it's one of the first ethical texts in Western thought and has to do with the nature of ethical thought itself. So many people think they know what right or wrong is, but when you ask them what it is, they can only provide examples, or their reasoning is faulty. Next week, we're going to delve more into ethical argumentation, but for now, let's look at those discussion boards. So that was just a quick final to this little lecture. The discussion board is here. There's a cool picture, but let me show you what the discussion board is by clicking on this. So you have to obviously read the Euthyphro, you have to watch the video, and then we're doing a discussion board about the nature of moral relativism, right? So you have to watch the YouTube video, read the assigned passages, and review the slides. Oh, these numbers might be off because I've been changing the slides, but review the slides that I just went over. Then write answers to each of the following questions, and each answer should be a paragraph, right? Is that? Yeah, I guess. Is there such a thing as right or wrong? You're writing long answers to these. Explain why Euthyphro was prosecuting his father. Why does Socrates need to know what the pious is? Etc., etc. The original post is due by Thursday, and you have to respond to all your classmates' threads by Friday of week 1. And there we have it for week 1. You'll notice that the slides go on, but that is because this is all the Unit 1 slides, right? And I'm going to do a different lecture for next week. And if you think that I should make 2 lectures instead of 1 for each week, just let me know. Right now I'm going to continue doing 1 lecture, but if you think it'd be good to have like a shorter video where I just talk about the Monday reading or Monday, Tuesday reading, and then a different video where I talk about the Thursday, Friday readings, if you could just let me know by email or in your discussion boards, that'd be great. Until then, goodbye.